I once believed that marrying someone meant becoming part of their family, fully accepted as if you were their own child. For 5 years, I was married to Mark and did everything possible to be the perfect daughter-in-law. I spent holidays at Wyme, their house, helped on their farm, and took care of cooking and cleaning during our visits. I thought my efforts would prove my worth and secure my place in the family, but I was mistaken. The reality hit me one morning at the airport as we prepared for our long-awaited family vacation. The entire family was going. Mark, his parents, his 2 brothers with their wives, and even the kids. It was supposed to be a luxurious escape from the cold winter, but things didn't go as planned. As we stood in line to check in, my mother-in-law, Linda, handed out the tickets one by one. She gave them to her sons and their wives, making sure everyone had their passports. I waited patiently beside Mark, but Linda didn't give me a ticket. Initially, I thought she had simply overlooked me. "Linda, I think you forgot mine," I said, politely, holding out my hand. She looked at me with feigned confusion. "Oh, Ashley, I don't have one for you. I must have forgotten." "Oh, well." Her words hung in the air, dismissive and casual, as if I were an afterthought. A tight knot formed in my stomach. "But I sent you my passport details when you asked for them. I even reminded you last week," I said, trying to understand. Linda sighed as if I were being difficult. "Well, I suppose it's too late now, but it's not all bad, dear. You can stay home and watch over the farm while we're gone. You know how much work it is, and this way you'll be useful." Useful. Like an employee, not like a part of the family. I turned to Mark, hoping he would stand up for me, but he just rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Babe, it's just a mistake. I'm sure Mom didn't mean anything by it," he said. I looked around at the rest of the family. No one spoke up or seemed surprised. My sisters-in-law exchanged glances but said nothing. My brothers-in-law pretended to be absorbed in their tickets. That's when I realized this wasn't a mistake. It was planned. They never intended to include me and had let me believe I was part of the family, only to treat me as a convenient extra. I had 2 choices. I could cry, make a scene, and beg Mark to fix this. But deep down, I knew he wouldn't. If he had any intention of standing up for me, he would have done it already. So I did something none of them expected. I smiled calmly and controlled. "Of course, Linda, you're right. The farm does need looking after," I said. Linda's eyes lit up with satisfaction. "Exactly, dear. You're so understanding." I nodded and walked away before anyone could see the anger burning beneath my skin. On the drive home, I didn't cry, scream, or throw anything. I just sat in the eerie quiet of our house, staring out at the sprawling land I had helped care for. The place that had become my second home, but where I was treated as nothing more than a free farmhand. As the hours passed, an idea took root. They thought I would stay behind like a good little doormat, tending to their responsibilities while they enjoyed their vacation. They were in for a surprise. I sat in the kitchen for what felt like hours, the silence pressing down on me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces, Linda's smug smile, Mark's indifference. They had played me, and I had let them. I wasn't just upset about the vacation. This was about years of being overlooked and dismissed. My husband, who had vowed to love and support me, had stood by and let it happen. Instead of calling Mark, I took a deep breath and got to work. The farm was too big for one person to manage alone. Mark's family had run it for generations, but recently they had hired workers to help with the daily chores. Linda loved to act like she did everything, but in reality she barely lifted a finger anymore. Now she expected me to take care of it all while they enjoyed their vacation. I smirked as I scrolled through my phone, pulling up the number of the farm's workers. It took a few calls, but I soon discovered that they hadn't been paid. Linda had been late on wages for months, always promising the money was coming but never delivering. Some of them had already quit, and the rest were hanging on out of loyalty or desperation. I called them back and told them to take the week off. "Are you sure?" one of them asked hesitantly. "Won't Mrs. Preston be mad?" "Oh, she'll be furious," I said sweetly. "But don't worry, I'll handle it." I could almost hear the relief in their voices as they thanked me. Just like that, the farm was empty. Linda had assumed I would stay and manage everything, but I wasn't going to be there when they returned. I packed a suitcase, taking my time to ensure I had everything I needed. As I reached the closet, I saw Mark's side, his neatly folded shirts, the expensive watch I had bought him for our anniversary, the cologne I used to love. I picked up his wedding ring, the one he never wore, and turned it over in my palm. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of bending over backward for a man who had never truly chosen me. I dropped the ring onto the dresser and zipped up my bag. Before leaving, I sat down at the kitchen table with a pen in hand. I could have left a simple note saying, "I'm done," but I wanted to take something back after all they had taken from me over the years. I started writing. "Dear Linda, since you were so kind to forget my ticket, I figured I'd return the favor. I've taken the liberty of giving the farm workers a well-earned break. The barn still needs cleaning, the animals need feeding, and the repairs you've been ignoring for months are all yours now. I trust you'll handle it beautifully. After all, you always say how much you love the farm. Oh, and don't worry about me. I've made other plans, ones that don't involve being used as unpaid labor while my husband watches in silence. Enjoy your vacation. You're going to need the rest. Best, Ashley." I folded the letter and placed it on the kitchen counter. Then I made sure the animals had enough food for the week. Without looking back, I grabbed my suitcase and walked out the door. For the first time in years, I wasn't where they expected me to be. As I sat in the window seat of my hotel room, a place Linda knew nothing about, I imagined their arrival home. The suitcases rolling into the house, the exhaustion of travel still clinging to them, the smiles fading as they realized something was off. The farm would be quiet. Too quiet. No workers, no one up at dawn to feed the animals, clean the stables, or tend to the land. And no me. I pictured Linda's face as she walked into the house, expecting to see me at the stove, preparing a meal for their grand return. Instead, she'd find my letter. The thought almost made me laugh. They wanted me to be their unpaid farmhand while they vacationed on my dime. They wanted to push me aside like I didn't matter. Fine. Let's see how well they functioned without me. I hadn't turned on my phone in days, but curiosity got the better of me. When I finally powered it up, my screen exploded with notifications, calls, texts, voicemails. At first, the messages were what I expected. Mark. "Hey babe, I just got home. Where are you?" I scrolled further. The confusion didn't last long. Soon, it turned into something else entirely. Linda. "Ashley, where are you? The farm is a disaster. Nothing has been done for a week. The place is a mess. You better explain yourself," I smirked. Oh, I was sure it was a disaster. A week with no workers, no maintenance. That farm must have been on the brink of collapse. I kept scrolling. Mark. "Babe, you really should have told me you weren't staying at the farm. Mom's really upset. Can you just call me back?" Oh, now he was concerned. The messages continued, growing increasingly frantic. Linda. "Ashley, this is unacceptable. We trusted you. You abandoned your responsibilities. Responsibilities. Funny, I didn't remember signing a contract to be their free labor. But then I saw the message that really caught my attention. Mark. "Ashley, Mom is furious. She said if you don't come home and fix this mess, she doesn't want you in the family anymore. Just apologize so we can move on." I stared at my phone, my pulse steady, my mind calm. Just apologize. So that's what it all came down to. Not once in all these messages had Mark asked if I was okay. Not once had he considered why I left. He just wanted things to go back to normal, for me to take the blame, clean up their mess, and fall in line again. But that wasn't going to happen. Took a slow breath and typed out my response. Me. "I won't be coming back, Mark, and I certainly won't be apologizing." It took less than a minute for his next message to come through. Mark. What the hell does that mean? I smiled. Oh, he'd find out soon enough. I wasn't surprised when the next morning I heard a knock on my hotel door. I opened it slowly, and there he was. Mark. He looked furious. "Are you kidding me, Ashley?" His voice was low and controlled, but his clenched jaw gave him away. "Mom is losing her mind. The farm is falling apart. You humiliated us." I raised an eyebrow. "I humiliated you, Mark?" He ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. "Ashley, You know she didn't mean to forget your ticket. It was an accident. Right, I said, folding my arms. Just like it was an accident that nobody spoke up when she told me to stay behind. Just like it was an accident that I was expected to work while all of you relaxed. He sighed. Look, I know it wasn't fair, but it's just how things are in this family. I laughed, not a happy laugh, not an amused one, a sharp, bitter laugh. And that, Mark, is exactly why I'm done. His eyes widened. Done? You don't mean that. I do, I said simply. I'm leaving, Mark. A flicker of panic crossed his face. Ashley, be reasonable. Mom is just upset right now. She'll get over it. We can fix this. I shook my head. This isn't about your mom, Mark. It's about you. You let this happen. You let them treat me like an outsider, like a servant. You chose them over me every single time. His mouth opened, but no words came out. You know what the worst part is? I continued. I expected Linda to treat me like this. I knew she never truly accepted me. But I never thought you would stand by and watch. Mark swallowed, shifting uncomfortably. I didn't think it was that serious. And that was it. That was all I needed to hear. A marriage only works if both people choose each other. And Mark had never truly chosen me. I stepped back, my hand on the door. I hope the farm gets back in order, I said calmly. But it's no longer my problem. His eyes flickered with something, panic, desperation. But he didn't stop me when I closed the door in his face. Because deep down he knew I was already gone. When the door clicked shut behind Mark, a strange sensation washed over me. It wasn't relief, not yet. It wasn't satisfaction either. It was finality. I had spent years trying to prove my worth to a family that had never wanted me to belong, and in the end, all it had taken was a forgotten plane ticket to show me exactly where I stood. Or rather, where I didn't. I took a deep breath and turned off my phone. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't interested in what Mark or his mother had to say. I wasn't looking for an apology. I wasn't hoping for understanding. I was done. Now I just had to make it official. The next morning, I walked into a lawyer's office. The woman sitting across from me had sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. You want to file for divorce? She asked, flipping open a notebook. Yes, I said. The word felt good, powerful. She nodded. Irreconcilable differences? I let out a small laugh. You could say that. She tapped her pen against the desk. Any joint property? Shared accounts? I shook my head. No. The house belongs to his family. The farm does too. I don't want anything. From them? Her eyes flicked up. Are you sure? You've contributed to that place. By law, you may have a right to. I don't want it, I said firmly. I don't want a single thing that ties me to them. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. All right. We can start the paperwork today. For the first time since I walked out of that airport, I felt light. I was finally taking my life back. Hadn't planned on seeing Mark again, but 2 days after filing for divorce, I received a message from my sister-in-law, Anna. Anna. You deserve better. I'm sorry for how we let them treat you. I stared at the words, surprised. She had been silent, at the airport just like everyone else. But now, when it was all falling apart, she had something to say. Before I could decide whether to respond, another message popped up. Anna, Mark is a mess. He didn't think you'd actually leave. He wants to see you. I exhaled slowly. Of course, now he cared. Still, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him, not because I wanted to fix things, but because I needed to hear what he had to say. We met at a quiet cafe, far from his mother's suffocating presence. He looked awful, dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, restless. He stirred his coffee, without drinking it, his hands twitching. You really filed for divorce, he said finally. I nodded. Yes, he exhaled sharply. Ashley, come on. Isn't this extreme? I tilted my head. You tell me. What would you have done if the situation were reversed? If my family had excluded you? If they had forgotten you? He shifted uncomfortably. That's not the same. I let out a humorless laugh. Of course it's not. Because you would never have put up with it. You would have walked away a long time ago. But I stayed. I let it happen, and you let it happen to me. His fingers clenched around his cup. I didn't think it was that serious. That's the problem, Mark. It was serious. It was always serious. You just didn't care enough to see it. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something close to regret in his eyes. But regret wasn't enough. I stood up, grabbing my coat. Goodbye, Mark. He didn't try to stop me. Because deep down, he knew this time I wasn't coming back. A week later, as I was finalizing my new living arrangements, an email from Linda popped up in my inbox. Subject: You ungrateful little... I didn't bother opening. I simply hit delete. Let her be furious. Let her rant. Let her realize that for the first time in her life, she had lost control over someone. I wasn't her pawn anymore, and I never would be again. I expected Linda to be furious. I expected her rage-filled messages, her dramatic phone calls, her passive-aggressive Facebook posts about ungrateful women who don't respect family. But what I didn't expect was the sheer level of desperation that followed. It started with small things. A message from one of Mark's brothers. Ashley, Mom is really struggling with the farm right now. She thought you'd at least be around to help clean up the mess you left. I had to laugh at that one. A mess I left? No. Linda had spent years assuming I'd always be there to take care of things, to pick up the slack when she let things fall apart. But now she had to deal with the consequences, and she hated it. I got another text from Anna a few days later. Anna, Linda is completely losing it. The farm is in chaos. The workers won't come back because she refused to pay them. Mark's brothers won't help because they have their own lives. She's trying to fix everything herself, but it's a disaster. I smirked as I read the message. Karma was settling in nicely. For years, Linda had expected me to be the silent workhorse of the family. She had taken me for granted, and now that I was gone, she was drowning. The next evening, I received a call from an unknown number. I ignored it at first, but when it rang again, something told me to pick up. I sighed, pressing the answer button. Hello? It's y'all. Familiar voice came through. Ashley, it's Mark. I leaned back in my chair, already exhausted by the conversation I knew was coming. What do you want, Mark? He hesitated. I need to see you. Can we meet? I almost laughed. You don't get to ask that anymore, Mark. Ash, please. His voice was softer now. I know things got messy, but can we just talk? I paused, considering. I didn't owe him anything, not anymore. But something told me this was important. So, against my better judgment, I agreed. I met him at a small diner on the outskirts of town, neutral ground. When I walked in, he was already there, looking tired, disheveled, and not at all like the confident man I once married. He looked up, relief flashing across his face. Hey, he said. I didn't sit. Make this quick, Mark. He sighed. Look, I know I messed up. I crossed my arms. Understatement of the year. He flinched but continued. The farm is falling apart. Mom is in way over her head. She thought she could handle it all without you, but... He shook his head. She can't. Stared at him, waiting for him to get to the point. Mark swallowed hard. She needs help, Ashley. I let out a slow breath, and he looked at me like I was supposed to understand, like I was supposed to care. Come back, he said quietly. I blinked. Come back? He nodded. Not as my wife. I get that's over. But as part of the family. I actually laughed out loud. Are you serious? I asked, shaking my head. After everything? After the way she treated me? You think I'd ever come back, Mark? He rubbed his forehead. Ashley, this is bigger than us. The farm, I cut him off. The farm is not my responsibility. Not anymore. He looked desperate now. But she's struggling. She made a mistake, but... I held up a hand. No, Mark, she didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. She chose to exclude me. She chose to treat me like I was nothing. And now she has to live with that. His jaw clenched. So that's it? You're just walking away? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I already did. I grabbed my bag and turned toward the door. This time, he didn't try to stop me, because he finally understood. I was never coming back. 2 days later, I received an email from Linda. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won out. Subject: I hope you're happy. I clicked on it and skimmed the contents. It was long, too long, but the main message was clear. She blamed me. Blamed me for the workers quitting, blamed me for Mark being miserable, blamed me for not being a good wife. And my favorite part? She actually demanded that I come back to fix the damage I caused. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. Then I did something I should have done a long time ago. I blocked her. And just like that, the last thread connecting me to them was gone. For the first time in years, I woke up feeling free. No texts from Linda demanding favors, no calls from Mark making excuses, no last-minute requests to drop everything for someone else's needs. Just silence. And it was the most peaceful silence I had ever experienced. I stretched, letting the morning sun filter through my curtains, and reached for my coffee. A slow smile crept across my face as I scrolled through my emails. Not a single one from Mark or his family, because they were gone, blocked, removed, erased from my life. And I had never felt lighter. I spent the next few weeks focusing on myself, something I hadn't done in years. I found a new apartment, something small, cozy, and completely mine. I went back to painting, something I had loved before I got married, but had let fall to the side. I reconnected with old friends, people I had lost touch with because I was too busy being the perfect wife and daughter-in-law. And most importantly, I started dreaming again. For so long, my life had revolved around Mark's family, their needs, their expectations. Before that, it was the same with my own family. That contact is no longer there now. For the first time, I was asking myself what I wanted. And the answer? I wanted to travel. Not just a week-long vacation, not just a quick getaway. I wanted to see the world, and nothing was stopping me anymore. One evening, as I was packing up my old belongings, I found a dusty box tucked in the back of my closet. Curious, I pulled it out and opened the lid. Inside were pieces of my past. Old anniversary cards from Mark, a wedding photo, little trinkets that had once meant something. For a moment, I just stared at them. Then, without hesitation, I took the entire box and dumped it in the trash. No second thoughts, no nostalgia, no regret. Because I wasn't that woman anymore. I wasn't waiting for someone to choose me. I wasn't begging for a place in a family that didn't want me. I wasn't sacrificing my happiness for people who only saw me as useful. I was done. A few days before I was set to leave for my trip, my phone buzzed with an unexpected message from Anna, Mark's sister. I hesitated, debating whether to ignore it, but something told me to read it. Anna, I just wanted to say that I admire what you did. I should have spoken up at the airport, but I didn't. I regret it. I frowned, my fingers hovering over the keyboard before I could decide how to respond. Another message popped up. Anna, for what it's worth, you were right. Mom never saw you as family, and Mark, he never really fought for you, did he? I swallowed, a strange mix of emotions stirring inside me. No, he hadn't, and that was the real tragedy of our marriage. But I wasn't sad about it anymore. I typed back a short reply. Me. I appreciate your message, Anna. I really do, but I've moved on. I hope one day you do too. I didn't wait for a response, because I knew that whatever she said next, it didn't matter anymore. The day I left for the airport, there was no dramatic send-off, no goodbyes, just me, my suitcase, and the open road ahead. As I stood in the terminal, waiting for my flight, I thought back to that moment at the airport with Linda, how she had looked me in the eyes and dismissed me like I was nothing, how no one had spoken up, how I had walked away feeling like I had lost something. But now I realized I had gained everything, because leaving them wasn't a loss. It was the best decision I had ever made. I took a deep breath. letting the past slip away like dust in the wind. And as my flight was called, I picked up my bag, stepped forward, and never looked back.